everyone, my name is Fatima and welcome back to the Race Edit. And if you're new here, welcome to the Race Edit and welcome to round 2 of 24. Welcome to my Chinese Grand Prix race review. And you know what? Wow. Wow. Where do I even begin? I feel like I should just start off with the good stuff, I guess, before I get into the bad stuff because, yeesh. Yeah. My goodness gracious. I woke up. I had about an hour of sleep, and then I woke up at 3 a.m. to watch the race, and I was so sleepy. And then I finished the race, went to bed, and I woke up, and I was like, wait a minute. What did I miss? Hold on a second. Ah, you know, this sport never fails to amaze me. This sport never fails to amaze me. So this weekend, the Formula One raced in China. We had F1 Academy, which if you haven't watched, please do watch and support the ladies. I unfortunately wasn't able to watch this race because of scheduling conflicts, but best believe I will be seated for all the other races that they have this season, and I will do an F1 Academy rewatch as well for their session in China. So please go support the ladies. They're great. It's a great time. And yeah, so we had F1 Academy, we had a sprint race, and then we had the Grand Prix. So we had a lot going on in one weekend, And a lot happened and a lot also didn't happen. Let's talk about it. Let's get into the sprint race first and foremost. This is where, for me, all my highs went, and they stayed there, apparently. Clearly. So we had a Lewis Hamilton pole position and a Lewis Hamilton win. So this was Lewis Hamilton's first pole position for a Ferrari, sprint or no sprint. And this was Lewis Hamilton's first win for a Ferrari, sprint or no sprint. This was also Ferrari's first ever sprint race win as well. So it was just beautiful to see all together. We had Oscar Piastri right behind him and then Max Verstappen right there as well. And I feel like even though the Grand Prix went the way the Grand Prix went this weekend or this Sunday, I feel like a lot of this season is going to kind of be like that. But I also don't want to get too ahead of myself because we still have the likes of Lando Norris and the likes of George Russell as well, who are very much up there. And I cannot forget Charles Leclerc, even though he's had an interesting start to this season. But overall, I, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, enjoyed the sprint race, but I can say it wasn't the most eventful race ever, was it? No. Yeah, that's my high of the weekend. What's yours? But this is really a Grand Prix race recap and not a sprint race recap. So let's talk about the qualifying sessions. So for the Chinese Grand Prix, we had Oscar Piastri claim his first ever pole position, and I'm going to say it's going to be his first of many pole positions. We had George Russell, who snuck right up in there and took second place away from Lando Norris, who ended up finishing third. Then we had Max Verstappen, fourth, Lewis Hamilton, fifth, Charles Leclerc, sixth. We had Isaac Hadjar, seventh. We had Kimi Antonelli, eighth. Yuki Tsunoda, ninth. Alex Albon, 10th. Ocon, 11th. Hulk, 12th. Alonso, 13th. Stroll, 14th. Sainz, 15th. Then we had Gasly, who was 16th. Oliver Bearman, 17th. Doohan, 18th. Bortoleto, 19th. And then Liam Lawson, 20th. And that seems to be the story of Liam Lawson's season so far this year when it comes to qualifying. I don't really know what's going on with him and that car, but there's a lot of conversation that's going on with him in that car. So how I like to do my race recaps is I like to just start from the bottom up, and it looks like we're doing this again, Ferrari, with you. Actually, haha, I forgot. Pierre Gasly also had a disqualification. His was for weight, like how Leclerc's was, and Lewis Hamilton's was for plank wear. My goodness gracious. So we had the likes of Alpine finishing 20th with Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan finishing 13th. So neither of the drivers were in the points this race. And not ew. Very not a good race for Alpine, was it? I mean, Pierre Gasly, I think towards the end he had an issue. Was it a balance issue or was it a brake issue? But he did end up having an issue which has affected his race pace this weekend. However, he was getting overtaken by the likes of Ollie Behrman. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll talk about Ollie Behrman in a minute. I'll talk about the Haas's in a minute. But Alpine, what did I say earlier when I was making my predictions? I was telling you guys, I was like, that Alpine double podium in Brazil, while it was really wonderful to witness, I have questionable thoughts about where Alpine is actually going to be. And right now, it's seeming to stay the way I was predicting it. I do think they are going to get better. They're going to figure things out. However, man, that disqualification is really going to hurt them, as is Doohan not even getting in the points as well. And the story of Doohan and Lawson keep going back and forth with where their status is going to be in Formula One, but I'm not here to gossip about that. I guess the next team is the Ferraris of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on over in the Ferrari camp right now. I do have to say, though, with Ferrari, it's seeming to be that with great highs come really, really great lows as well. Because how could we have the high of the sprint race win and now we're disqualified? Double! When we had originally finished, if I'm correct, I don't want to say fourth and fifth. It could have been fifth and sixth. Yeah, we had originally finished fifth and sixth, and now we're just not in the points at all for this race. Ferrari had an interesting race to me. So when the race had first begun, there was minor contact between Leclerc and Hamilton, which then resulted in damaging Leclerc's wing. But did it really damage it? Because it seemed like he got more race pace with that. Maybe we gotta rethink our wing strategy, Ferrari, because it's giving, But we also did get a WTSQ, so there's that as well. But Hamilton had originally had a great start. Hamilton gained a position over Max, and things were looking on the up and up. And then they weren't looking up and up. Then Leclerc suddenly found a lot of pace with his damaged front wing, and he was right up Hamilton's rear, and Hamilton had suggested the switch. Even though the broadcast would tell you otherwise and make it seem like it was team orders, we were seeing that Leclerc was gaining on his teammate, and he was suggesting that switch because he did not have that pace. We just got to set that tone clear because things have been getting a little bit misconstrued this season, and we're only 2 races in when it comes to how the Ferrari duo and how the Ferrari team is working as a whole. And Fred also called that out as well. That's a good team principle. We like to see it. We do need to fix our behavior, our car behavior, though I'm not going to lie, that's just messy boots from both cars. To have disqualified Ferrari, I don't even know where to begin. But Leclerc had originally had the pace, or so we thought, and he was right up behind Russell. As we know, though, this was for some people, I could say, a hard track to overtake on. It's not Oliver Behrman, though, but this was a hard track for some people to overtake on, and the Mercedes just had the pace, and Leclerc was just not able to overtake Russell, and I'm pretty sure he might have chewed over his tires a little bit. I don't know. But it was just not. It was what we had thought was going to happen with the Ferraris from what we saw in the sprint is not what happened during the actual Grand Prix. And that resulted in both of them finishing 5th and 6th, or so we thought. Anyway, of all the drivers on the team, well, not of all the drivers, of all the upper field, Hamilton was the only one who ended up doing a 2-stopper, which did not work in his favor, unfortunately. However, with that, even at one point he was a good 18 seconds behind of his teammate, behind of Max, and then he chewed through those tires and kept going. It was pretty much doing qualifying laps through and through, and he finished right behind Leclerc because Max Verstappen ended up overtaking him because he did have the pace where the Ferraris did not. And, we win some, I guess, even though he did pit stop and no one else did a pit stop in the upper field. He still finished right behind his teammate, I guess. Should they have switched back? That's up to you. Personally, I don't know if it would have worked anyway. Because I do feel like Leclerc would have overtaken him, and maybe you could say Leclerc should have just done the overtake in general, instead of the team quote unquote team orders. Maybe. We don't know. We don't know. This was just not Ferrari's race. Clearly, it was not Ferrari's race. And we come back in Japan, and I don't want to say this again, but hopefully we do better in Japan. Now, you would think I'd be a bit more upset about about the double DSQ, but for some reason I'm not. I'm maybe of the thought process that if everything bad's going to happen, it might as well happen now. This has to be it. Let me just knock on wood, because absolutely not. Just absolutely not. I think that Ferrari needs to keep their heads down. No more aura farming. Keep your heads down and just push through. I think their car is good. I think they have a fast car. I think there's just something that's not clicking for some reason. Obviously they have a fast car. We won the sprint race. They did a great job. Leclerc was still he was not happy with the setup during the sprint, but they did good. So whatever is not clicking, we need to get that to click, and they need to get that to click ASAP, because they're losing valuable points. If Ferrari does what I think they're going to end up doing, which is they're going to actually pull a McLaren of last year and build their car to become one of the top contenders, losing out on valuable points like this is a no-go. It's genuinely not okay. So they're going to need to snap back real quick, because they can't keep doing this, unfortunately. It sucks, but they just cannot keep doing this. Like, hello? You're supposed to be, you could arguably say they have one of the strongest drivers pairings. And if they have a fast car, you're supposed to be up there with McLarens. You are, and they're just not right now, and it's disappointing to see, because I'm just like, what's going on? Again, I'm not so stressed about it. And maybe that's just me being a little bit delusional, possibly. But I just feel like there's just something that's coming in Ferrari's way very soon, that all this chatter about them is going to die down, and they're just going to be right up there with the McLarens soon. I I don't know. Maybe I'm just being extremely delusional. Perhaps, but hey, why not? Why can't I be extremely delusional? Why not? You know, that's the joy of Formula One. You support a team, you support your drivers, and even if they're not winning, you still have hope that they're gonna come out on top one day. Simple as. Then we have the likes of now Racing Bulls. Sonoda ended up finishing 16th. There's no way Sonoda should have finished 16th in this race. Are you joking? I'm sorry. Strategy. There's something about those two Italian teams and their strategy blunders. We gotta figure it out. We can't keep doing this. But strategy, what's going on? Yuki Tsunoda had the race of his life. And he finished 16th? The only thing that's bringing Yuki Tsunoda down is strategy at this point, because there's no reason in heck that Yuki Tsunoda should be finishing 16th after the race that he had this weekend. There's just absolutely no way. And I'm genuinely, I'm shocked. He did end up also, was it Yuki who had the damage? I'm pretty sure he also did end up having damage as well. They had to change his front wing as well. But he could have avoided that if strategy was on his side, in my humble opinion. I'm just saying. And then we also had Isaac Hadjar finishing 11th. I'm so happy for him. He finished just outside of the points. That's okay. I mean, it would have been better to finish in the points, but just outside the points. And this is all. I'm following the race results after the triple disqualification with Pierre Gasly, with Lewis Hamilton, and Charles Leclerc. So with this, that means Isaac Hadjar finished 11th in the race. And you know what? After the non-race that he had last week, I'm sure he's just happy he was able to get the job done and finish the race. And if he keeps putting his head down and doing what he needs to do, he is going to have a great time at the Racing Bulls. He also had contact with Jack Doohan, which gave Jack Doohan a 10-second penalty. I can't forget that. Jack Doohan had a 10-second penalty for forcing Isaac Hadjar off the road. Jack Doohan got a 10-second penalty for that, which also is not a good look for Jack Doohan, especially if he's fighting for his seat. If he's fighting for his seat, that's not a good look. So that's really going to hurt him in the long run. These past few races, he's just not been having a good time. In Australia, he didn't have a good time. In the sprint race, he didn't have a good time. And now in the Grand Prix, he got a 10-second penalty where he really should have been in the points because his teammate got a disqualification. Yeah. It's not looking good, bruv. It's not looking good. From Sonoda to the 16th, we have the Kick Sauber team with Hulkenberg and Bortoletto finishing 14th and 15th. This is a very big difference from last week where Nico Hulkenberg finished 17th, and then obviously Gabriel Bartoletto ended up DNFing. A lot of people DNF last week. The rain was just rain. Yeah, not Nico Hulkenberg didn't have a good qualification either, and he's pretty good at qualifying. And he was out as well. He didn't get into Q3, so you know, Kick Sauber. I'm obviously like, at least they're in the points because last year they were not in the points until what, like the very last race, if I'm correct, or even the second last race. At least they got points last weekend and good points last weekend, but we can't keep doing this. I'm pretty sure Gabriel Bortoletto also did spin at one point. There was a yellow flag at one point. Now, was that the sprint race or the main race? That's the question. But you know what's so interesting to me? I actually think that Gabriel Bortoletto is going to have a really great career in this sport. I think he's a quiet rookie to watch. I do. He has outqualified Liam Lawson each time so far, and I don't even before I even get into Lawson, but I do think that I'm very curious about Gabriel Bartoletto because although he's not had the best of times, I do think he's a quiet rookie to watch. I think he might have. I don't know if he's going to win all the races or all the championships, but I do think he's going to have a long-lasting career in the sport, and I hope I'm not wrong because I would like to see him have a good, long-lasting career in the sport. I think it would be really great for him and really great for Brazil. And yeah, I don't know. Let's keep an eye on that little kid. Let's keep an eye on that kid. We also then go to the likes of, I guess we can go into Red Bull because we have Liam Lawson finishing 12th after the disqualifications and Max Verstappen finishing 4th. Now, Max Verstappen was always finished 4th because that's how he ended the race, just behind George Russell. I wonder if he had a few more laps, if he was able to catch up to George Russell, but I also wonder if George Russell would have been able to catch up to Lando Norris, but we'll get there when we get there. However, Liam Lawson, that second Red Bull seat, and not to pile onto it because everyone's been piling onto it, but that kid, that second Red Bull seat, I don't even know if I want Yuki Tsunoda racing in that second seat. And as much as Yuki Tsunoda deserves that promotion, why would he go into that second seat when he's doing so good at the Racing Bulls? It just seems to be that since Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull, that second seat has just not been a hot commodity, you know? And Checo lasted as long as Checo could last, and there was pressure from Red Bull to get Lawson in the seat, and they're not going to not obviously keep that investment because they had to pay Checo out of his contract, right? However, it's not looking good, and the streets are saying that Yuki Tsunoda could potentially be in that second seat come Japan. I don't know if I want it. Yuki Tsunoda has built a home in the Racing Bulls. He's built seniority. He knows that car. That car knows him, and he's been doing so well that to see him in that second seat and to see him potentially get dejected would be the worst. Ideally, I think for a lot of people is to see Yuki Tsunoda in a different camp in general outside of the Red Bull family. I think at this point it's time. They've held on. He's held on for so long. They've held on for so long, and clearly, if they're going to take other drivers ahead of him consistently, there's a reason. And why should he race in that second seat? Now, it would be really freaking hilarious though if Yuki Tsunoda does get that second seat and he's up to par with Max. I would laugh because it would have been the biggest waste of time from Red Bull. It would have been the biggest waste of time and the biggest waste of money from Red Bull to just not have originally put him in that second seat. Again, though, I don't want to say that they don't want competition for Max, but I think it's healthy to have a second driver that can help you win in the WCC. Had they had that last year, that's no shade to Checo because Checo did say the car was undrivable, and towards the end of the season, we saw Max struggling with that car, and Checo was saying now he's driving the car that I'm driving. So clearly, there's something. That car is built for Max and Max only, and that's okay. But what is Red Bull going to do when Max Verstappen essentially retires or Max Verstappen essentially eventually leaves or goes to a different team because it's coming up. It seems to be that it's coming up, and I don't want to say they've got no one, but it's giving Liam Lawson's having a hard time. Liam Lawson is having a hard time, and I think he's just as surprised. However, Japan should be a good race for Lawson. If it's not a good race for Lawson, then I do not know what to say. If he doesn't qualify up to Q1, I don't know what to say. If he's not in the points in Japan in Suzuka, then I think that says everything that needs to be said for Liam Lawson in Japan. I do because this should be a good race and a good weekend for him coming up. All right, let's move on to Williams with Carlos Sainz finally getting in the points due to a triple disqualification and Alexander Albon finishing 7th. Williams is so interesting to me this year because Alex Albon is doing great and I love to see it. People were like, oh, once Carlos Sainz gets into the car, it's going to be over for Alex Albon because he's going to have another teammate that's just on par with him. Because, Alex Albon his teammates consistently have been not the best. And he's just always had a little bit more experience and edge over them. However, when Carlos Sainz signed to Williams, wow, that was a tongue twister. It was like, oh, now we're really going to see if Alex Albon is as great as we think he is, or if it's just a fluke because of his teammates, but he's showing up and showing out. Again, Alex Albon is Williams. He knows Williams. Williams knows Alex Albon. He knows how the car functions. He knows that team. Carlos Sainz is new to the team, and he's figuring it out. Just like all the other rookies are figuring it out. Just like Hulk is figuring out Sauber. Just like Hamilton's figuring out, I almost said Mercedes. Hamilton's figuring out Ferrari. Like, they're figuring it out. However, Sainz has had a rough go. He finally got his first points this season, but I don't think we can say that without saying he only got that because there was 3 disqualifications. And if we're going to cheer on getting points, which I'm always going to cheer on getting points for lower level teams, we need to see, because he didn't have a good race. He did not have a good race. He did not have a good race. So yeah, we'll need to see Japan. We'll need to see Japan because I'm like, he's not connecting with the car, and I do think Sainz is a good driver. I think Sainz has what it takes. I just think he's having a rough go at it right now, and at least he's not crashing the car. So there's that. I mean, last weekend, but hey, that was not his fault. But yeah, Williams, they're up ahead of Ferrari again, which they really shouldn't have been before he got disqualified. But good on Williams. These are really great valuable points that they need and they need to keep, because if the Ferraris do what I think they're going to do, they might not get other opportunities like this, So good for them for finding something to keep them there. That's holding them there, Then we have freaking Lance Stroll finishing 9th. Now, I probably should have talked about Stroll when I spoke about Alonso. I completely skipped Alonso. I just realized that. Alonso didn't finish the race because Alonso had a brake failure. Pierre Gasly called it out. He said brakes on fire, Alonso. So Alonso was just a DNF. He didn't finish the race. However, Lance Stroll was just out here zooming. He is the one, with those hard tires. He's the one who triggered the domino effect of everyone doing the one stop. I'll get into George when I get into George, but he is the one because he was on those tires for like 30 laps and he really held on. And that data that teams are seeing, they're like, maybe this is just a one-stop race. And lo and behold, it was. Lance Stroll, even through all of that, he finished 9th place. And you know what? Guys, I'm going to have to say it. I'm a Lance Stroll truther. I'm sorry, I am. Okay, whatever. You can say he's a this. He's a Nepo baby. He only has a seat because of his dad. Whatever. I think I'm the first person to call out Lance Stroll when Lance Stroll is doing Lance Stroll things, like when he beached the car last year. I am the first person, but also, I think he's just so funny. I think he's so funny. And also, I also have to root for him because he's Canadian, and you know me. I gotta root for the Canadians. I can't not. So with that being said, I can't lie, you guys. I'm a Lance Stroll truther, and do it that what you will. I do it that what you will. That's all I'm gonna say. Sorry. Then we have, oh my gosh, guys, we have to get into this because Oliver freaking Behrman finished in the points. He finished 10th originally with the disqualifications. He finished 8th. Are you joking? No. Haas did that this weekend. Haas did that this weekend. As I said in my predictions, I said Haas is going to be the team that's going to actually I found that they were going to actually extract some points. I said that Haas is going to finish ahead of Alpine. Now it's only race 2 and I'm getting ahead of myself, especially after last week. However, Oliver Behrman, although he crashed in the practice sessions last week, he was one of the only rookies to finish the race in the wet conditions. That says a lot. And then Esteban Ocon is Esteban Ocon. And y'all know me. I root for Esteban Ocon. Esty Bestie, that's the man. So seeing Haas finish the way they're finishing, I need them to hold it together. I need to keep it that way. I need them to keep it that way because I'm also rooting for Haas to be one of the upper midfield teams. I am. And to see them finish and have great points, I think they're now ahead of Alpine, if I'm correct, which is good for me. But shout out to Esteban Ocon and Oliver Behrman. Oliver Behrman should, in my humble opinion, the driver of the day should have either been Oliver Behrman or Esteban Ocon because Oliver Behrman was doing his little overtakes and saying ciao to the drivers as he was overtaking them. Yes, this is what I like to see. I'm so here for Haas finishing in the points, high in the points. So yeah, I'm so excited for Haas this I'm so excited for Haas this season. I don't know where Haas' season is gonna go. It could either go up from here or just completely down from here. But I'm still here, Haas. I got you. I'm still here. Then we move on to Kimi Antonelli finishing 5th. So now we're talking about finishing 6th. So now we're talking about the Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli, he got driver of the day because Kimi Antonelli has shooters. And you know what? Kimi Antonelli, he's also up there as one of my favorite rookies this season. I think Kimi Antonelli is going to have a great career. I do. And he's had a really great integration into Mercedes. Now we know he's had a lot of testing, but he's had a really great integration into that Mercedes team. And I'm really curious to see how the rest of the season is going to pan out for him because it feels like each race he's just getting better and better. And that's really good for Toto Wolff because he took a gamble on Kimi. And so far we could say the gamble is but hey, George Russell though. That man is going to P3 his way into this championship. I'm not even kidding. Are you? Listen, we know we like to dog on George Russell for his crazy strategy calls at the start of the race because he does get ahead of himself sometimes. He does get ahead of himself, but he was the one who called out it being a one-stopper at the very start of this race, and he was right. And with that, he finished 3rd again, his second podium of the season. And you know what was crazy to me? Them saying that Mercedes is fast in the straight line. Because when I was there last year, that Mercedes was not. That Mercedes straight line speed was abysmal. Was the last year? Was it 2023? Either way, I just have to say, George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, good for them. Really good for them. George Russell could have snatched away second place from Lando Norris. He could have snatched away second place from Lando Norris had he had more laps. But I do have to say that this Mercedes, maybe I'm just like ignoring it, but I still don't feel like I know this Mercedes car. And I said that last weekend too. I still don't know the actual pace of that Mercedes car. I think George Russell is doing great things with that Mercedes car. I do. I'm still very like, what's going on? Because at the sprint race, when Ferrari had their balance right, Charles Leclerc was on him. Charles was on him. And obviously it was hard to overtake, but I don't know. I don't know, Mercedes. Can you tell me what's your car's pace? Because I still don't know, and I would really like to know because it's hard for me to like make actual predictions or like to say Mercedes is the second fastest car because they could be, but I'm also like I don't know if they are at the same time. So they're up there. I think it's gonna be one of those like last year where each weekend another team's the fastest car. We know McLaren has the fastest package overall, but George Russell is gonna P3 his way into a freaking championship win. Could you imagine? Yo. Then we go on to the McLarens of it all, and Oscar Piastri. You did that. You did that. After the way Australia treated him in his own home country, he went to China and he said, I'm going to win this race. I'm going to get my first pole position and I'm going to win the race. I'm going to lead this race and I'm going to make no mistakes. And guess what? He did that. And with that, I say salute. I'm so here for an Oscar win. Are you joking? You guys know me. He's part of my big three. Oscar Piastri is part of my big three. So seeing Oscar Piastri win was great. You know, it really was. And I'm so happy. It's gonna be so interesting for McLaren. Are we just gonna be going back and forth this season? One week can Oscar win, one week can Norris win. Are we just gonna be doing that? Terrible sprint race for Lando Norris. Qualified terribly because he made a mistake. Terrible, maybe not terrible qualification for Lando Norris. George Russell snatched his second position, and he had brake issues during the race. Either way, this was Oscar's race to win completely. I don't think there's anything Lando could have done. This was just Oscar's race because even though those top three were top threeing, they weren't actually making gains on each other because nobody wanted to mess up their tires, because although it was a one stopper, any wrong mistake, any wrong lockup, any going wide could have ended that race for them. And this Oscar in the clean air, he did exactly what he needed to do to secure that win. And when I tell you, watch this space because Oscar Piastri is one to watch. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. He is one to watch, and I am rooting for that kid. I really am. That's all I have to say about the race. Actually, I lied because China, why? I'm sorry. I did not enjoy that race. I didn't even enjoy the sprint race. The only reason I enjoyed the sprint race was because of the Ferrari Hamilton win. But it was just, you know, it was just not my favorite race to watch, and I think that's okay to say. I just feel like there was so much excitement about the tire wear, about degradation, and then everyone was just like, let's do a one stop. And I was like, oh, okay. And then once Lewis Hamilton pit, everyone was like, could this change things? It did not. So yeah. I do love Japan. Oh, I'm so excited for Japan though. That is one of my favorite tracks. I'm really excited for that. And I really hope it goes well. I need everyone who's speaking on Ferrari to stop speaking on Ferrari because it's too much eyes on my team and they just they need to be secluded in like a little cave and only come out during the race weekends and just put their heads down and just win races. Straight up. But that's all I have to say for you all this weekend. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day.